check out the response. So do you want to be hypnotized? Yes, I would want to see what it's like. I do want to be hypnotized, not for any specific, just because I want to experience it. Yeah, because I want to see if it works. Maybe I was going to some sort of surgery or something painful. Do we have anyone? I haven't seen any with someone who doesn't want to be hypnotized. You don't want to be hypnotized, okay? And you don't have to say why. You don't feel compelled, but tell me why. You don't have to, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Because, like, I went to this thing, and my brother was, like, my brother was, like, hypnotized, and it was, like, real, like, all these people were.
Mm-hmm.
It was really creepy because, like, they don't know what they're doing. Like, their eyes are open, but they're, like, you can tell, like, they're zoned out. Like, that's scary. She made me do, like, crazy stuff.
Okay, notice what she said. She, the hypnotist, made them do certain stuff. It's an interesting concept. Our lesson today is kind of dispel the myths of hypnosis. I don't think we're going to be able to define it because much like in a lot of stuff in psychology, it's very tough to define thought, emotion, and it's going to be really tough to define hypnosis. But we are going to try to say what's real, what does the movies present, and what does the research and data present. Questions so far on hypnosis? No, the reality is this. If you don't ever want to be hypnotized, you won't be, and nobody can hypnotize you against your will. What's that? Didn't I just say that I have hypnotized you? Yeah. I have. But you wanted it. All right, so here we go. On your mark and set. Let's jump into this stuff really quickly. Why don't we go here? Let's look at this. I think a lot of people think hypnosis, the person who is doing the hypnotizing has all the power and they can make people do stuff. And I think that's kind of immortalized in the scene. These are not the droids you're looking for. All right, couple cool hypnosis stories. Let's start. Go ahead.
I have a story. One time I was in Venice Beach with my friend and her cousin, and so we're walking, there's all these crazy people, and there was a guy who was like doing hypnosis stuff, and he like called me over, so I went along with it, and so like he like, I don't remember, he did like some hand thing, and he had me like close my eyes, and he was like, okay, when you open them, like you have to go run over to the crowd and like scream. I wasn't under any hypnosis or anything, but I went along with it anyways, because I didn't want to like embarrass him, and there's like a crowd of people. So I had to go along with it.
That's going to be a good point. Is hypnosis real? There's kind of two main competing camps on this. The first one is going to be what's called the role theory, which you describe. And the idea is that there's no such thing as hypnosis. People are just playing along. I mean, here's my idea. If you were walking along, you're in a grocery store, dude comes up to you, woman comes up to you with the scale, puts it right in front of you, and says, hey, can you get naked and hop on the scale? You're like, ew, pervert. What, you got like a scale fetish? You're disgusting. You go to a doctor's office, like take off your clothes, get on the scale. You're like, okay. What's the difference? The difference is the social situation. So if you've ever seen the stage hypnotist show, on one hand, I'm going to tell you, there are very few things that are better ab workouts than going to a stage hypnotist show because you will laugh so hard you might have internal injuries. It is that funny. And I'm going to describe a couple I've been to. I'm a big fan of them because they are that funny. But my question is, my scientific skepticism is, are people just playing along? I mean, let's think about it. If you go to a nationally known comedian who's touring the country and they fly into a couple local cities and people go pay some pretty good money. They go to a nightclub, they spend $50 per ticket, $40 per ticket, $80 per ticket, depending on how famous the person is. And they go in, they sit at a little table, some of their friends, get a drink or two, maybe some appetizers. Person runs up on stage, does your interesting warm up the crowd, and says, hey, I just flew in from Cleveland. Boy, are my arms tired. Kind of cheesy stand-up jokes to get people laughing. And then that hypnotist is going to say, does anyone here want to be hypnotized? Now, everyone's going to raise their hand. Why? Not everyone. But a lot of people are going to raise their hand because they bought money for a ticket, they showed up, they're volunteering. Now, do you think you're going to have any introverts and shy people raising their hand? Probably not. So what's interesting, he's going to pick someone, you. I think the magic, if there is not the magic, you know what I'm saying, not like Dumbledore magic, all right? But the important thing is not whether or not someone can hypnotize someone else, but how would the stage hypnotist, how do they pick? So the stage hypnotist is going to draw 20 people up on stage. After warms up the crowd, everyone's having a good time. We're expecting some cool stuff, man. They're going to make people walk like a chicken and quack like a duck and all that kind of stuff. Well, if you have 20 people on stage, I would suggest maybe half of them are going to be hypnotized. The hypnotist is going to turn to the crowd and say, all right, you guys in the seats, shh, brings the house lights down low, turns his back to the crowd, and talks to the 20 people sitting in a chair he pulled up on stage. And he starts going through what's called the induction. That's a word you're going to have to know. Now, you've heard the classic Freudian induction, swinging watch, look at the crystal. Those aren't necessary. There's no magic in a watch. So the stage hypnotist is going to say, I want you to listen to my voice. And it might take 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then the stage hypnotist might say to the crowd, look, I know this stinks. You paid money to laugh, and for 15 of these minutes, you're going to sit there and be bored while I bring these people under. Eventually, some people will be hypnotized, but not all. Some dude will be in the back, like, looking at the crowd. Hey, I'm here on stage. Someone's like, I'm hypnotized. You know, someone might be too drunk to focus. So the hypno-comedian might tap someone on the shoulder and say, why don't you go sit back down? It's not working. So maybe half, maybe 3/4, maybe 2/3 of the people who volunteered, ran up on stage, actually get hypnotized. And then the stage hypnotist is going to bring people, they're going to invite them to the party. What does that mean? A bad stage hypnotist is going to say, you, quack like a duck. You, get naked. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. One of the funnier ones I saw is I was kind of in the front row at a little table near the stage. I didn't volunteer because can you imagine what I would be like when I'm hypnotized? If I'm bad enough when I'm like this, holy smokes. All right, so my buddy who did not volunteer, well, I look over and he's just like out in his seat. Didn't volunteer to go up on stage, but he is hypnotized, if that's what he was. Maybe he was just playing along, maybe he was just faking. So the hypnotist, the nationally known comedian, looks down and sees my buddy just completely out. Not sleeping, you can tell by kind of like the set of the facial expression, slack jaw. So he like points, and the house lights, the spotlight comes down on my buddy. He comes off stage, and he goes to my friend, he goes, hey, you feeling pretty good? My friend's like, uh-huh. You want to come on stage? Okay. My friend goes up on stage, and the hypnotist, while everyone else is chill behind him, the 10, 13 people out of 20 who actually got hypnotized, he goes, has my friend kind of stand on the corner of the stage. And he says, I got a problem. Can you help me? My friend's like, okay, sure. He's like, you look like kind of a nice guy. You look like the kind of guy that will stand up for people who can't fight for themselves. And in the back of this room, there's a lot of guests who pay good money who can't hear me. They're hard of hearing. Can you please help translate? And my friend's like, okay, sure, I can do that. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to sign everything I say to the people in the back of the room. My friend's like, okay, I got that. So for about 20 minutes, my friend is sitting there on stage, just making stuff up. And what's brilliant is the hypnotist had my friend do that and then went to someone else and said, listen, I want you to imagine what it's like for those people in Disney World. The employees who are dressed in those heavy costumes, Central Florida, 100 degrees, 100% humidity, they're dripping sweat, they can't get a break. They can't get a pee break, and snotty kids are being demanding, and parents are being pushy. And I want you had enough. What would you say? What would you say to your boss that you quit? He's really selling to him. And notice he's engaging the person's senses. And he says, it's hot, you're sweating, you smell the kid's peanut buttery breath. The costume's itchy. And he's really engaging all of the imaginative ability. And he said, I want you to tell your boss off. Say whatever you want to say. Really get in the character. Say what the character can say. If you've never heard Minnie Mouse drop the F-bomb, it is one of the funnier things. A big dude just cursing someone out in Minnie Mouse. Next he's going to say this. I want you to imagine you're on stage and all of a sudden you realize, holy smokes, it's embarrassing, it's horrible. You forgot your pants. You're just naked. And so you see people like, oh, and they don't have enough hands to cover themselves. It's really embarrassing. One dude was like, stood up and like, yeah. Now the question we have to analyze, if we're scientific skeptics, were they just playing along? Were they basically what we call extroverts? People who like to show off, people who want attention? Or were they really hypnotized? Notice the hypnotist didn't force them to do anything. He invited them to play. He invited them to say, don't worry what anyone else is thinking about. Just have fun. When was the last time you guys played? Back in the day when you were 6 years old, you had your Barbies, you had your action figures, and you'd sit there for a half hour just in your own mental world, creating this whole elaborate cognitive world. And your action figures are doing this, your Matchbox cars are going here, your Barbies have a tea party. When's the last time you did that? Well, if you're ever bored and you got a half hour, 20 minutes to kill, phone's out. You're looking at a glowing rectangular screen. So I'm not saying at this point hypnosis is real or not. I want you to think critically. Let me tell you an alternate idea. And in full disclosure, this might be one of the few topics I actually know about. This is what the topic in which I did my doctoral work in this. And I actually like it. So if I sound like a salesperson, maybe I am. But here's what I'll tell you on this. Personal first-hand experience. My front teeth are fake. I was like staring, right? They are. I got kicked in a karate tournament, believe it or not. All right. So last time I had them fixed, all right, there was nothing left to fix. Dude had to grind them down to the root. It was going to be a pretty extensive surgery. He had to put like a metal rod through my kind of root into my, you know what I decided to do? I went in one day and I said, I knew the surgery was coming up. I planned for it. I trained for it. It's something I wanted. I trusted my dentist. And I said, I don't want any pain medicine. He's like, what? And I was like, I would like you to begin the procedure. I don't want anything. I've been practicing hypnosis. I've read the research. I think I can do this. He's like, no, absolutely not. That's the most recklessly professional thing. And I said, look, you've known me forever. You know I'm not going to sue you. Let's sign some waivers. And let's face it, if you start drilling and I start screaming like a 4-year-old little girl, stop. And then we'll do it again. I learned my lesson, you know, and what's the worst that's going to happen? He's like, okay. Put my headphones in. I did my best, went through my mental exercises, went deep, 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 deep. And you know what? What should have taken a 2-hour surgery was 1 hour and 15. And it worked. The thing that really annoyed me was he kept saying, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, shut up and let me concentrate. And afterwards, I was ridiculously exhausted. Because what the idea is, you're holding on to an idea. You're holding on to ideas so much, you're blocking everything else. Probably the most extreme example of surgery under hypnosis is someone who had liposuction. If you don't know what that is, think of lipids or fats. You're basically sucking out fat from a person's abdomen. And it's actually a pretty violent surgery. Because if you don't know what it is, imagine taking your vacuum cleaner with the wand and you make an incision in someone's belly and you're just like sticking it in there and sucking out all the fat. It's a pretty extreme form of surgery. But like, oh, I had liposuction. You get pretty good recovery time. Pretty painful. So the person had liposuction under hypnosis. Here's the good part. The person who was the recipient of the surgery was the surgeon. He did it to himself with no anesthesia. Now you're like, what the what? Which gives us an idea that maybe we can process complex information. Yes, if you don't know what that is, you should be like, oh, that would hurt. So now we get the interesting question. How do we know if this mental event, look, we can't measure consciousness, we can't measure thoughts, so how are we going to measure hypnosis? Anything that can be done with hypnosis can be done without hypnosis. So is hypnosis this fake thing? Is it just meditation? Is it just zoning out? It's a good question because any description we have might also fit for meditation. It might also fit for deep prayer. So let's kind of dig into this. Anyone got any thoughts on this before we go? Any questions? Go ahead.
Wait, so after your surgery, it was extremely painful, right?
No. Because pain's an idea. Pain's an idea. Afterwards, was there some recovery? I think I did take like Tylenol afterwards, for like a couple instances. Could I have blocked it out? Yes. But at the end of the day, to what extent? And it was kind of really mentally exhausting. So, I mean, what is the real benefit from it? Is it easier just to get the shot? Probably. Hours. Go ahead.
So how do you learn or train to become a hypnotist?
How do you train to become a hypnotist? There's a couple ways. The proper therapeutic licensed way is to go get your degree either in medicine. All right, you could be a licensed clinical social worker, you get your PhD in psychology, and in order to be a hypnotist, you need to go through what are called continuing educational credits. You need to get trained, and they're licensing and accreditation bureaus. If you just want to do it because it's cool, you want to entertain people, all right, then just start reading. There's no magic to it, and that's what I want to dispel today. There's no magic, there's no mystery. In fact, all of you have been hypnotized. You just don't know it. Go ahead.
Why don't you just do that all the time then?
Why don't I do hypnosis all the time?
No, like, why don't you just, like, let's say, you could probably be the best athlete in the world if you didn't feel, like, the stresses of, running or,
okay,
like, being tackled or something like that. You could just get back up and keep running,
I think there are some limits to that. I think that hypnosis might be good for nerves, might be good for butterflies in the stomach. Will it grant you physical strength? No. Will it allow you to get to your peak? Yes, but only if you concentrate on that. And if you're concentrating on hypnosis, you're not concentrating on the game. Go ahead.
So you're saying anyone can like hypnotize people?
Yes. Well, okay, I'm careful on anyone. I'm saying most people, given the right favorable conditions, can hypnotize someone. But be careful, I put that in quotes, which doesn't make me feel cool, because nobody, you don't believe me? I double dog dare you to say a word and put it in quotes. Everyone right now say a word. Go ahead.
A word.
Do you feel cool? I kind of feel a little bit diminished, actually. I don't feel proud of myself at all. All right, so what I mean to say is, we think of the hypnotist as the one doing all the work. They have like, whoa, I'm going to hypnotize you, look at the watch. That's the myth. The reality is it's the person who's being hypnotized that does the work. Questions before we jump into our really boring writing task? All joking aside, all right, no, I have not hypnotized most of you. All right, no, all joking aside, I've never hypnotized you. I probably will not hypnotize you. No, stop with the quotes, I gotta stop this. No, I will not hypnotize you in this class because you're minors. Now, that doesn't mean we can't do a relaxation activity. You know what I'm saying? All right. Because a lot of people, that's not right. I say that kind of in jest because there's a lot of myths out there. If I were to go to the school board, the administration, parents, or the community, there's a lot of myths out there. We're like, no, I don't want you hypnotizing my kids. No. You'll be. Now, some of your parents have emailed like, can you hypnotize my kid, please? Make them not be an idiot. All right. I'm like, no, because your kid's an idiot. But you should see the emails I have back and forth. No, the reality is this. Hypnosis has a mixed reputation, and a lot of people have some misunderstandings. Let's jump on to the myths of hypnosis, or some truths about hypnosis. Truths about hypnosis. Number one, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. In my dental example, notice I didn't have a hypnotist with me. I did it to myself. And all of you have done it to yourself. Zoned out in front of the TV. Oh, the TV's on, but you're just in your own place. Reading a book, the same line over and over and over again. I guarantee you your parents have been hypnotized when they're driving. Especially at night, it's dangerous. What I mean by dangerous is hypnosis itself is not dangerous. In fact, it's quite healthy. But think if you're driving on a highway and you have street lights every, 500 yards. And if you're going 60 miles an hour, that means the street lights flash, 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 and your tires hit the brake in the concrete. So your tires, the thud, flash, flash, with the hum of the tires. It creates an interesting, relaxing experience. It blocks out some other sensations. It is always voluntary. It takes concentration, which means nobody can make you concentrate. Believe me, I'm a freaking teacher. Do you know how often I beg people to concentrate? And I see people going like this, stuff like that. You can't make someone pay attention to something they don't want to pay attention to. If you don't want to be hypnotized, you're not going to be hypnotized. And a lot of people who even want to be hypnotized still can't be hypnotized because they can't focus themselves. They can't make their attention go where it's got to be. Go ahead.
Are you more susceptible to hypnosis when you're tired?
I don't know. Good question. Will you be more susceptible to hypnosis when you're tired? Not necessarily, because if you're super tired, you can't concentrate. But if you're tired enough to be relaxed, but not like sleep deprived, maybe that will help you. We'd have to define that a little bit more carefully. Okay, let's do this. Everyone's been hypnotized. I want you to think of a hypnotist as a coach. Someone who's helping you achieve your goals, not someone who's like doing the Jedi mind whammy on you and that is making you do something you don't want to do, like quack like a duck. That's not the way it works. And I think hypnosis is a skill. Now, there's a lot of pseudoscience out there. Hypnosis for hair growth. What? Hypnosis to help shrink a tumor. I wish. Hypnosis to reduce acne. Doubtful. Maybe. If there is a weak link between acne and stress, and hypnosis has been shown to reduce stress, maybe. Could hypnosis stop you from smoking? Only if you want to stop smoking. See, I've known a lot of people who come up to me, hypnosis sucks. It didn't stop me from smoking. You know what I say? Because you didn't want to. A lot of people say, hypnosis didn't stop me from overeating. I'm looking at like, no kidding. No, it's not right. Why would I say that? That's not right. All right, and the reality is people don't want to stop overeating because overeating is what they've learned is how to deal with stress. It's called comfort food. Now, one of the things what we're going to get into is, can hypnosis cause a physiological reaction? Yeah. If you get really, really nervous and you blush, your mental state made your blood flow go differently. Can you do that on command? That was actually what, not that you care about what my research was, but I wanted to see, could people learn the average person learn to hypnotize himself in a 6-week training course and make one hand warmer than the other? Now that would be pretty cool because let's face it, hand warmth is really a function of circulation. And here's what I want to do. Could you make one hand warmer than the other at the same time? Think you could? You could. Some people are naturally talented at hypnosis, and some people are naturally talented at hypnotizing people, but the reality is they're not doing anything. I think there's good coaches who can draw the best out of you, athletically, academically, and I think there's good hypnotists who can draw the best out of you in a weird conscious kind of way. As we talk about hypnosis, one thing you should write down is anything that can be done during hypnosis can be done outside of hypnosis. Anything that can be done during hypnosis can be done outside. So some people say hypnosis isn't magic. Plenty of people have had surgery without medicine and not felt it. All of you have been injured and not felt it. It means your mind was focused on one thing and not on your injury. There's no magic to hypnosis. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about hypnosis. One of the things you turn off is motivation. Now, a lot of us are like, no way, man. I'm motivated. I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to be captain of the basket weaving team. You can't tell me. I'm hard driving. I'm hard charging. Why would you laugh at basket weaving? The idea is, isn't it easier to have a teacher just tell you what to write? I've begged you for weeks and months, don't just copy words off the board. Think before you write. Isn't it just easier if I tell you what to write?
Yeah.
So what if it's like this? What if hypnosis is just like a little vacation from responsibility? Check it out. Changes during hypnosis. Very little motivation. Alpha waves. What does this mean? It means your brain's active. You're not a zombie. You're not asleep. And even in certain stages of sleep, we know your brain's very active. No one has control over you. And you ignore stimulation except for the voice of the hypnotist, or you ignore stimulation except that which you should be focused on. So in my case, when I was in the dentist chair, I had an MP3 of a kind of a hypnotic script. It was 20 minutes long. And I just had it on repeat. And I just concentrated so hard. Some people say not on the words, but this is weird for ready? On the space between the words. You're like, what does that mean? We're going to get into that in a second. Increased ability to fantasize. Sadly, with this thing called responsibility in adulthood, people don't play as much. They don't dream as much. And let's talk about reduced reality taking. Many of you all are skeptical enough if I said with each breath, you will become 2 times as relaxed. Next, take your next deep breath and you will be 2 times as relaxed as the last breath. Like, that's dumb. How do you measure relaxation? How do you measure 2 times? Okay, what if we were to take the doubting part of you away and you had a childlike acceptance? Children accept Santa Claus, children accept the Tooth Fairy. So now what we're going to say is we're going to take away the doubting part and we're going to say you're going to feel more relaxed. You are going to feel light as a balloon. I don't know what that means, but maybe you'll feel it. Maybe you'll suspend your disbelief. Instead of role taking, why don't we cross out role taking? Here's a word I want you to write down. The word I want you to write down is called reframing. Reframing yourself as maybe an inanimate object, reframing yourself as something other than yourself. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at pain. What color is pain?
Red.
Red. Black. How many of y'all have never had that question posed to you? What does pain sound like? What shape is pain? What does pain smell like? See, if we reframe means to think differently. What is stress? Is stress a syrupy liquid that coats everything? And all you need to do is clean it out? What is tiredness? What is doubt? So if we look, okay, let me ask you this. What does nicotine look like? I've never seen it. A smoker's never seen it. Oh, maybe you could Google and see a vial of nicotine. But what does it look like in your lungs? And so if you can imagine yourself, imagine your disease, imagine your fear as something that could be painted over, that could be covered up, that could be changed from a caterpillar to a butterfly, then maybe, just maybe, you can see your problems in a different way. That's kind of what we're looking at. We got that? Let's look at a little bit of the history of this stuff. When we look at the history of hypnosis, we got to start with a gentleman named Franz Mesmer. Franz Anton Mesmer. He's the person from whom we get the word mesmerized. You don't have to know too much about it. If you want to copy down every word, that's fine. The important part of Mesmer is he was probably fake. He had this ritual, and maybe he tapped into the placebo effect. He had this ritual where people had to report to his flat or apartment in Paris, and he had them submerge themselves in a tub of water, and he had iron bars or magnetic rods in the water, and he'd wave a wand around them, and he would say it would have an effect on your animal magnetism and stuff like that, and people would feel better. Now, did they feel better? Well, we know the placebo effect's pretty powerful. Could he have accidentally cured someone? Maybe. He was exposed as a quack by Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin went over to Paris and kind of did some investigation and said, no, it's the worst thing ever. You can't just do that. There's no such thing as animal magnetism. Show me the scientific basis that waving a wand over someone's going to cure them. So no. But Mesmer sticks in our lexicon from which we get the word mesmerized. We know Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud thought that hypnosis could be a window into the unconscious, just like dream analysis could be. Now, it's worth talking about Erickson. Erickson was so good at hypnotizing people that it was almost like magic. He broke some of the rules. I said no one could hypnotize someone if they didn't want to. Erickson could. Erickson could hypnotize someone over the phone. Erickson could hypnotize people who didn't believe in hypnosis. Erickson even had what's called a handshake induction. He'd shake your hand, and within a second or two, you'd be in a hypnotic state. You're like, no way. Now, the interesting thing about Erickson, he was a very kind man. He was very caring. Not just, when I say this, I think there's a lot to be said with body language, reading people. Erickson said, we are communicating machines. We cannot not communicate. I double dog dare you to not communicate. And the more you not communicate, the more your body language, facial expressions is screaming. So check it out. I double dog dare you to not communicate with your mom. Any one of your moms says, honey, how was your day? Fine. Honey, something bother you? No, nothing. You walk through the kitchen like this. You're all mad, stomping around. Oh, you don't think you're communicating, but you're screaming loud and clear what your emotions really have. Erickson was very good at listening and looking and reading people. Here's an example of his hypnotic therapy concept. He wasn't a Freudian person. Freud would say, you will be hypnotized and you will tell me your deepest, darkest, unconscious stuff. Not that blatant, but Freud was very confrontational, domineering. Erickson had the lost horse idea. And he said this. Here's a metaphor, a story. A farmer's sitting there, plowing his fields, doing something, and a horse walks into the farmer's field. And the farmer's like, I don't know this horse. It's a good-looking horse. I should probably return it to the horse's owners. They probably want this horse back. And so Erickson said, the farmer doesn't know where the horse lives. No internet. There's no papers. There's no license plate. How am I going to get this horse back to the owner? So eventually the farmer figured out a way. And after a short little time, the farmer brought the horse back to his owner. And the owner was like, thank you. This is my prized horse. How did you even know where he lived? The farmer said, I didn't know, but the horse did. It's an interesting thing that if we believe in this thing called the subconscious, Erickson's idea is our subconscious is a tool. We just need to listen to it more. Most of us get a little bit disconnected from that. So now the question is, what's your subconscious telling you right now? How do you listen to it? Whatever. Okay, let's talk about dissociation. Well, if you think about the word association, it means connected. I associate this with this. Disassociation is you disassociate yourself. God, stop with a quote. I'm gonna like this. You disassociate yourself, whatever that is, from your problem. So now you've got to think of this. What is overeating? Is it a behavior? Is it a parasite that lives in your... Now, I'm talking imaginative. I'm not talking a giant tapeworm that lives in your intestine. How would you imagine your desire to overeat? Is it a big scary monster? Is it a bully? How about your addiction? If you can, dissociate yourself from your disease. Oh, you don't get to learn. One time this kid's like, you can't scare me. I showed him a mirror and he cried. All right. So why would I say that?